So the question this week is, how many more Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazis do we have in our public sector? We've all been watching, let me correct that. Certainly people like myself have been watching this Madlanga Commission closely. I think the public are a little bit sick and tired of commissions, and of course you've got to earn a living during the day, so who's got time to watch this thing? By now we've been so let down by commissions, commission of inquiries, this meeting, that Lachotla, this Mbizo. Nothing ever seems to be done. But it's starting to feel to me like there's something a little bit different here. And I'll explain to you what the difference is with the Madlanga Commission. The Madlanga Commission, as far as I can make out, is the first commission that is done by public servants on an issue. This isn't coming out of public pressure. If we go and compare it to previous commissions, it came after a whole lot of media, after a whole lot of outcry. It was definitely driven by public sentiment. This one was Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, Deputy Commissioner in KZN, addressing the public in quite a dramatic way to say, I've got these allegations, something should be done about them. And that's led to this commission. We were all outraged, and I think quite rightly, that we had yet another commission instead of a legal action. Because commissions have always been the way that the ANC have kicked the can down the road. But they didn't. They went for the commission, thinking that this would bury everything like all the other commissions. But this one is different. This one isn't after books have been written. It's not after Sunday newspapers have run exposés of corruption or any of the sort. This comes out of the state itself. And that makes a dramatic difference, because the witnesses that are being called aren't some crooked contractor. This is public servant versus public servant. So I'm going to go with my original question of how many Nhlanhla Mkhwanazis do we have in the public sector. There is no doubt that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi occupied a unique position that led to what it has led to. For starters, you had a guy who has a very senior position. We only have one national police commissioner and nine provincial commissioners, police commissioners. In other words, only 10 top cops, and one of them decides to break ranks. What are those ranks that I talk about that he broke? Well, in the past, you have this this omerta, as they call it in the mafia, this sort of vow of silence. You never rat on the guy next to you stealing money. So even if you were an honest guy, you had to sit there, bite your tongue, watch the other policeman stealing money and do nothing about it, because this was all part of the movement. And the movement was dirty, therefore just keep your mouth quiet and nobody gets hurt. Here you have a guy who occupies a position, who's got the proof, and most importantly, he's got the self-esteem to get up there and say, to hell with it. If you don't like this, then take me to court, prove me wrong, fire me if you need to. If you look at some of the other people we've had, they never occupied that space. They weren't confident enough in themselves. Yeah, you think back to some of the people we had as police commissioners. They were completely, by definition, party first people rather than job first. Becky Tlele was commissioner of police. He did nothing. He made a fool of himself, talking about stomachs in, chest out. The guy did nothing. He tried to act like some kind of mafia don. Ria Piecha, she was just a deployed cadre. She knew nothing about policing, and it showed. Here you've got a policeman watching what's going on and saying, no, I have had enough. Which leads me to think that he can't be the only one in the public service, in the public sector, especially amongst the senior people, that hasn't had enough, that isn't prepared to say, no, we will stand up against this, and I'm going to name names. And it's starting to look a lot to me like what this commission is about is that we have a policeman who wants to stop crime and politicians that want to stop the policeman from stopping crime. So if you're serious about being a policeman, it's got to offend everything that you stand for. And so is the case with Mkhwanazi. But perhaps we were all a little bit too quick in this country to tar every person, every public servant with the same brush. It's not fair. Maybe there are public servants, they are good people, they do want to do their jobs. And after 20 years of living openly with corruption, state-sanctioned corruption, in many cases, the top man himself sanctioning the crime, the top man himself doing the crime. I mean, it will forever be a stain to this country that the ANC thought that David Mabuza would be a good deputy president, that the ANC thought that Ace Magashule should be the Secretary General. These are flawed characters. We know what they did. We're not even going to get on to the case of Jacob Zuma. That was the ultimate insult to the citizens of the country, to the public servants of the country. But after 20 years of living with open corruption that hasn't even been attempted to be hidden, if you work for the public sector, you get conditioned to just sit there and take it. And Mkhwanazi has perhaps set down a marker. The question is whether this genie can be put back in the bottle. We discussed it. I don't think it can. Right? Now, we've got to understand that what is different here. The ANC politicians carry no sense of shame because of their ersatz story of liberation, the story that they invented. Even though no real battles were fought, they were the liberators. Great, good for you. But the way that organization is structured, those people, especially the senior ANC members, never, if you think about it, those people in parliament never interact with the general public. They only interact with other politicians. And when we all do the same thing, everybody's okay. It's like being in the nudist colony. Everybody's got no clothes on. Therefore, everybody's the same. You don't think it's strange that that guy's standing there with no clothes on because you're in a nudist colony. If you're in the ANC and you're in the parliamentary village or in parliament itself, you look around and everybody's involved in corruption to one degree or another. It becomes not that strange. It becomes something that you don't worry about. But a policeman has to interact with people that have been at the cutting edge of the crime. You have to deal with people whose loved ones have been gunned down. You have to deal with grannies killed by their grandchildren who are in Nyaupe. So they know that those drug syndicates have been sanctioned at least by their by their leaders, the parliamentary leaders. And Mkhwanazi has kind of had enough. And so far, all of the testimony seemed to lead directly to head office. The Minister of Police, successive ministers of police, have done their best to undermine policing. And it looks no doubt like Senzo Mchunu is in big trouble here. He's the guy who shut it down. The revelation of the week could be that the president was the guy who ultimately blue-ticked the idea of shutting down the political killings task team, which means that crime goes all the way to the top. We know that the president's nephew is mentioned in these criminal activities. So we have now discounted the value of our public servants. But perhaps this is their opportunity to go out there and to say, you know what, after all of this, I've got a career here in delivering to these people who have to face every day. And I'm not prepared to be the guy that is the punchline to every joke. Because that's what happens. We all used to make the joke of Home Affairs, the licensing department. They can't print your license because there's only one machine. They're being let down by politicians who aren't doing their jobs, but they're the people who have to face the public, the angry public. And I think they've had enough. And if they didn't, the fact that somebody quite senior, like Mkhwanazi, stands up will make a tremendous difference. So, what could a potential cleanup of South Africa look like? What would it take to unearth our other Mkhwanazis in this country? Well, we've seen this happen. We've seen this happen in many countries. It's been done in many ways. But what are the key features of a cleanup? Well, we can't have a situation where the person who broke it is the person who has to fix it. The liberation movement idea, where you call each other comrade, that has to go. Unfortunately, it spawned a few, other parties that are built on the same basis. But the idea is that it's either run professionally and not like a little gang of mates, where we call each other by names, we give each other faux ranks. But you're running this as a serious business out there to deliver services, and you're getting paid to do it. So the liberation movement idea has to go. History has proven that liberation movements cannot liberate themselves from their liberation movement thinking. So we know it. It's happening. The ANC has to go. But so must the other organizations that are built in their image. They have to go. These organizations where the leader is beyond reproach, where you don't have democracy within your own party. And we've spoken at length about how many political parties in this country do not have elective conferences. And this stretches all the way from Mkhonto Wesizwe, Action SA, Patriotic Alliance. These are parties that will not allow democracy within their parties. Yes, the EFF has elective conferences, but we heard what happened ahead of theirs, where their commander-in-chief said, nobody better stand against me. Hardly an election. So those parties have to become more answerable to the people within the party, as uncomfortable as it is. And I think a watershed moment is going to be the local government elections. Because after 30 years, local government, I think it's safe to say, has now officially collapsed. Rest in peace, local government. It is gone. And I don't think that people are happy to say, okay, you can ruin the rest of my life because of your ideology. We spoke earlier this week about the response to Helen Zille putting her hand up to be mayor of Johannesburg. And I'm saying that the questions, the comments, the talk show, people that phoned in were more about saying, we have had enough of sewage running down the street. We've had enough of potholes. We've had enough of streetlights that don't work, of metro cops that just want lunch. And when this changes, it will be a domino effect. It'll happen throughout the country. And I think it's about to happen at the local government election 1 year from now. It must also happen legally. And I get the feeling that this Madlanga Commission could be the catalyst where judges have to start looking around and saying, oh, hell, we haven't quite been impartial judges. We haven't quite been impartial prosecutors. Perhaps it's time we send somebody to jail. And it's up to Justice Madlanga, who can start recommending people for prosecution. And then I want to see the prosecutor that isn't going to do their job. Then I want to see Shamila Batoy's replacement who says, I don't have enough people to prosecute one person because I've only got 500 and I should have 1,000, whatever the number is. It's crazy. Right? The country is sick and tired of these people giving us excuses for not doing their jobs. And this commission might be the thing. The local government elections are going to be key, and the key areas are going to be the 3 metros in Gauteng and eThekwini and KwaZulu-Natal in general, where I think that the people in those areas have had enough of bad local governance, and they are going to vote people who won't do their job. They're going to vote them out. So, perhaps it's time for you and me and other South Africans to stop looking and just saying that all public servants are bad. Maybe we should start looking at public servants and start asking them whether they're the next Mkhwanazi. Are you brave as Babita Deokaran, the woman who had to die for unearthing the theft from the Tembisa hospital in Gauteng? And the Gauteng government has still done nothing about it. 4 years after that woman was gunned down. She was brave. There will be roads named after her, and it deserves to happen. Not after people that stole things. It's a blight on the country that the Madlanga Commission is running a building named after Bridget Mabandla, who was a justice minister who did nothing about the arms deal and other corruption within the party. Yet she gets a building named after her. Those days have to stop. I think there are other Mkhwanazis out there. We must find them and we must support them. This country still has hope. And Mkhwanazi has given us hope by being the guy who finally stood up and said, I won't be another criminal. I think there's hope for this country. A long way to go. But hey, stay the course. We're here. We're going to fix it up. Thank you so much for joining us on the weekly update. You better be one of the people that are subscribed to the channel, or else we're going to send hit squads after you. Subscribe to the State of the Nation. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon.